Yes, guys, what's going on? Speci here, and we're about to find out all about the patch details as a dev overview, I think, with Jason and Ryan. So I'm going to be obviously reacting to it, and then we'll talk about all the key changes at the end of the video as well. So really excited for this.
Hello everyone, and welcome to today's dev stream. And my name is Ryan. I'm a community specialist at CDPR for Gwent the Witcher card game, and today I'm joined by none other than Jean, our latest addition in the game designer department. So welcome, Jean.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Ryan.
Nice to see you too. Good to have you with me today because we're going to talk about a lot of changes. And before everyone asks, Burza is still around, and he's in the background creating some special content with Jason for you, so don't worry. He's working his magic, and that means that today, Jean and I will be covering all the changes coming with the update tomorrow, 8.2 it is. And yeah, I think before we do that, quick reminder that Alzo's journey is about to end. So today is the last day, and tomorrow we will see someone new. Who will it be? I don't know. Maybe I do know. Maybe I won't. But yeah, we'll all find out tomorrow together. So make sure to get that next reward tier while you still can. And I think that's it. Let's jump into the changes. People have seen a couple of familiar faces or cards over the last 2 months reappearing, so I think they are eager to know what has changed, and I think we'll start off with the neutral cards and then we'll tackle everything faction by faction.
So we're going to go neutrals first,
with that?
And then hopefully get to V soon as well.
Perfect. Then let's
I'm looking forward to that one, I'll be honest.
With neutral cards, and the first change that I think we should talk about is our opinion on lock cards, right?
Ooh!
Yes, absolutely.
Hello. Oh my.
So with the 8.0, we've made a buff to Alba Armored Cavalry, 1 power and 1 armor buff. And we've been very happy about the impact it had and the spot in which Alba Armored Cavalry landed. And so the result of it is that we decided for the 8.2 to make an overall buff to all of the locks.
Okay, I'm down. I'm actually down. Genuinely keen.
And hope that there
yeah,
going to be very keen. Cards.
Very, very keen for that, actually, honestly.
So I think
much as I hate yet blocks, like
got a quick provision.
This card's come close to a few of my decks a few times.
Really nice.
In like Maddox decks, with, like removing lock could be kind of huge.
Monster friend.
Oh, Dorogrey 6 provision. Wow.
6, very efficient from.
Yeah, that's a really. I like it. Like it's just a playable card. Dorogrey's like a bit of a classic Gwent card too. That's very playable in a lot of decks. Mage NR as well.
The next, I think, neutral group that we tackled were bombs. I mean, they have
bombs.
seen
Hello,
some gameplay
bleeding
now
bomb.
With Maddox being in the game, which is really cool. But I think overall, they still are a bit on the weaker side.
Just need a few, like the Moondust and the Northern Wind. Yeah, Dancing Star. Oh, 4P. Oh, this is huge.
Played, though we're still keeping an eye on it. Addition in some ST decks.
Okay, that is a really, really good card.
Played, but
wow.
Not all of them, and some bombs in the game are still very, well, terrible. And so
this card's really good. I tried it a few times when it was 4 provisions, and it wasn't that bad. But like with a precision strike, with like revenants.
We've got the Dimitrium. Wait, that's not Dimitrium.
Okay, and Dimitrium bomb I tried a few times as well, right?
And the
damage by 4. Oh mate, that card is so good.
It was 4 provision, but now it damages by 4, right?
Oh my days, yes. That is.
It still gives Veil.
So an unbelievably good card. Now you might think, whoa, Speci, you're overreacting, bruv. 4 provision, 4 removal, neutral, and they've changed Red Haze too.
Still great artwork.
Oh my days, that is really good as well. Oh, I think they might have overdone it, is my instant opinion, having played a lot of bombs myself. I like it.
Yeah, it's another card we change.
I like it, but ooh, those cards are borderline broken, I think. The fact you get Maddox with them as well, right? Ooh, wow.
2/6 for 6.
Wow. Guys, Maddox is going to be super meta, because Maddox was already strong, right? Like, I climbed really well with Maddox in the last day of the season.
Thundercar is now 5 provision, so I think it's our first 5 provision unit, gold unit, right?
Exactly.
Maxi's 5 provisions, I love that as well, that's really cool. Yeah, that's a banger idea.
Slot might make it interesting to run as a tech card.
Yeah, that's a really cool idea. I think Maxia is close. Honestly, I like the changes. I think my instant opinion is they've probably overdone it. Like 4 provision neutral cards that do damage are going to find their way into a lot of decks.
Wengerberg, which is now only 10 provision.
Yennefer's 10.
Yennefer
Born payoff.
has now added Zeal, so you can at least get that one zap of the
Cool.
card off.
Okay.
And it's also now only costing 9 provision, which is
wow, that's a really big change as well. It's really good.
There's one
Close to being in NR
neutral
decks
card
with the
we can
pings
cover,
and stuff. Yennefer.
and that
You can
is
unlock Scorches,
Savior.
Ignis,
Yes.
There he is.
and
Our,
Mr. Lemmings.
known friend of the Thronebreaker saga game.
A cooldown. That's a banger card as well. I like it. That's a good lippy tech now.
Zeal and it's been switched
Like
around
because an
to
8 provision or whatever it was is much more difficult to fit, whereas
So
this is
Clavier
like
used to be this card
really
which on deploy would banish up to 3 cards from your open graveyard, and
Very sick.
it was also 8 provision. And the problem with it was that it was highly polarizing. In some matchup, it could be a really interesting
polarizing
card to run.
keyword.
Most
Oh,
of
I'm
the
in the
time
way,
it's a
aren't
good
I?
card.
I'll move myself.
By making it cheaper, but also having
Sorry.
a more controlled effect,
Apologies for that.
we hope to make it a more reasonable tech card that you might run instead of Squirrel, for instance. And we are also giving your opponent some way to interact with it before you can banish his entire graveyard.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Another good.
Like the fact they've added this Maxia's 5 provisions is so sick. I actually thought that
all
that
right.
card is
I
almost
think
good,
it is time
right?
to talk
5
about
provisions is
the
such a
bug in
big
the room. Our
But like the
favorite
bombs,
centipede.
Dimitrium bomb especially. Wow, that card is
The
good.
Vi.
That card is so
OCP.
good.
Who knows?
14 provisions, 7.
I actually don't know it right here. You see, I don't play mine. There it
Ooh.
is. It's out. But yeah, we switched it around a bit. But I think you told me that there's one card or like one effect you want to cover first before we go
Yes.
in depth about Vi. But this is like a small spoiler, but we'll talk about it more. But first, let's talk about the monster ability, right?
Yes. So we made a change to Overwhelming Hunger. Oh, it's not here.
All right, let's talk about it. Let's talk about what we did, yeah?
So we changed Overwhelming Hunger to only have 2 charges instead of 3. And we made a buff to the Echimera token, which was changed to 2 powers from 2 powers to 3 powers. And we also made a 1 provision buff to Overwhelming Hunger.
Okay.
Now, the reason we're doing this is historically, Overwhelming Hunger has been a non-interactive card. And in design, it has limited us in what we could do in terms of Death Wishes. And of course, the apparition of V
Sure.
has made it very clear how an interactive
Yeah,
it
I think
was.
that's fair, but
So,
like I feel like Overwhelming Hunger was
removing
more than
this one
fine.
charge allows us to make it, well,
Haunt
more
is more of the
interactive
Death Wish
and,
issue, I would
opens
personally
up
say, than the
space
leader.
in terms of what we can
I don't-
do in Death Wishes.
I was kind of hoping for more, I'll be honest.
Yeah,
Buffing the Echimera. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Let's wait and see.
Buffing the Echimeras allows us to also keep the power level exactly the same, and we counteracted the fact that you have 1 less charge by increasing the provision.
Yeah. So to recap,
I think this
Overwhelming
card
Hunger
is
now only has 2
still
charges.
really
Kamara
good.
that
I don't think
does
they've done
get
enough
scored
personally.
is
I think
a
it's a
little
really
stronger,
boring
and this
card.
means we are now able to
If it was 7
increase
base
the
strength
power
and it
level of
gained
Death Wish
2
cards
power, I
because
would feel much more
they can't
content.
basically be
Like,
cheated
I just
all the
don't think
way
this
3
card
times
needs
now.
to be
Yeah, I think it's a
a
good change. It makes it a
competitive
bit
deck.
more
It's just
flexible to
it's just boring,
not
to be
not the
honest. I
effect
think that's
itself,
it.
but
It's just
the
boring,
Death
right? Like
Wish
it's
archetype.
super uninteresting. You just win games based on what cards you draw.
Now back to the monster.
I'm pretty unhappy
We
with that
got one
change,
here.
if I'm honest.
It lost a point.
I was really
so it's
hoping
now
for
only
more.
7 points at the start, and it costs 2 more provisions. So I guess you can retract 1 provision because Overwhelming Hunger now is 15 instead of 14.
Because there's some matchups where
It still
like
costs 1
you're,
more in the
you
end,
just have spare
and
leader charges
it's
anyway.
got
Like
1
not that
point
often. It is a big
and I think
deal,
you
but
already told me earlier. That means if you play Vi multiple times, obviously you always lose that 1 point. So in the end, it does make a bigger difference. Than
it
might
does.
seem, right?
Of course, it does make a big difference. But
You're
ultimately,
usually gonna be playing V about 7.
the only reason
times
V's win
in the
rate's
game,
not been that
which
high
means
is because
7
people are
to
playing
8 point
spores.
loss.
You know,
and of course, the chance to overwhelming hunger directly hits the archetype by removing.
I just wish they wouldn't attack the leader.
Of
Which,
uninteractive.
okay, you could argue is a little bit strong, but it's not that strong, is it? Really?
We've got a few more changes.
I'm not happy with that one. I mean, I'm not like mad or anything. I just
That's really nice.
I was hoping for more, to be honest. I think it's just a super boring card.
From 5 to 6. That is the token that is spawned by Harpy Egg. And we've got the Rot Fiend, which was changed from 4 to 5 power. And I think another card that also benefits from the buff to Ekimaras is the Katakan, right?
Yes.
Okay, that's, yeah, Katakan being a little bit better.
Katakan lost 1 power.
But it's got Thrive, it's kind of relevant.
The thing is, with the buff to Ekimara, its overall value increased by 2, and we found that it was a bit too much, which is why we took that 1 power off. Though you have to keep in mind that
Thrive, mate.
A lower base power means that it's also easier to trigger its Thrive. So it's less of a nerf than what it seems like. It's still the buff overall anyway.
Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah, makes sense. I think with these Thrive cards, if you lower their base,
the Rot Fiend got a point buff, and
make a huge difference unless it brings
there was a point buff to the Harpy, that the Harpy egg spawns, which is actually kind of relevant because Harpies are almost really good with Idrin.
Buff is also Blood Moon.
True, Blood Moon now also a little bit better. Next up, I would quickly cover Fuka.
Thrive 2, cool, banger either. Yeah, much better.
Gotten changed a little bit, right?
Cool.
So yes. Now it has a Thrive 2. It lost the armor.
And the veil. Yeah,
but I think overall it creates a different kind of card, right, than you had first in mind.
Absolutely. We're definitely experimenting a bit with this card. The previous version definitely proved to be completely underwhelming. And we think that Thrive 2 might open up a whole other way of playing the card.
Yeah.
I like it.
We've got 2 more small changes for the faction.
I'm liking all the amount of changes. It's really good.
Eider, which got changed a bit.
Okay, this card needed some love.
7 provision instead of 8. And we've got the Wild Hunt Hound, which got a provision buff from 5 to 4.
Beautiful.
Okay. Is there anything else you want to say in regards to monsters, or shall we go ahead to the purple faction next?
All good, I think.
All right. So, as I said, purple is up next. Skellige on the menu. We've got another very popular card. I guess it depends who you ask, but Lippy Gudmund, very polarizing, and he got a slight nerf, I would say. Let's bring him up right here. He's now 3 points.
Very big now.
And 11 provision. So before,
yeah, I think that's fair.
And 4 points.
That's kind of fair.
What do you think about it?
You can't nerf the other cards, right?
Well, Lippy has been very present in the leaderboard following the 8.0 release, since it got some really strong tool from the new expansion, and also got indirectly buffed since we buffed the provision of
I honestly couldn't
Roach and
see this getting like
another
provision.
Taking some of that power.
I mean, it's milled.
I think
for sure against like
another card
cards that pull the highest provision over Ceres.
At the moment is the new
Ceres 11, I think she's 11.
And
yeah, Kaduch is nutty. Yeah, it's more reasonable.
This was really strong because
really good.
It gave you flexibility with the card that you wanted to spawn, like the other location artifacts, but also it had this heal adjacent units by 3 points ability before. Now it is only healed them by 2. So also a small buff to the Skellige faction in that sense. Yeah, is there anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So Iron Kaduk used to bring a lot of points quite easily. The minimum you could get from it was 8 points if you played Bear Witcher and you healed it, but you could very easily cap up to 14 points. Lowering down the heal to 2, this changes this value to 7 and 12. But there is actually a very small buff in this, which is a buff to self-wound decks. Because by only healing by 2, your Bear Witcher are not going to be fully healed, they're still going to be damaged, and so they're going to be counted for cards like Bear Witcher Mentor.
Interesting. So, okay, so we might see it in a different archetype than to see it in everything, basically.
That's still good though.
We've got a few more small changes for Skellige. We've got the Brockville Hunter, which is now
still good in like heal decks as well, like Mardrones. It's not really been nerfed.
There you are. You are now locked to the range throw, so basically you can interact with it and.
Okay, sure, I like it.
Just by
I honestly like this card quite a lot. I think it definitely needed a little bit of love, a little bit of a nerf, but I like that it's still got zeal.
It doesn't matter where they play.
Giving it ranged is pretty fair.
Another
not going to be that relevant very often.
Talk about
something
is to the faction-specific lock, which is janky.
Ooh, 6 provision locks are nutty.
7 power. Right?
7 power.
Yeah, 7 power.
Ooh,
6 power.
baby. So Dorogrey is 6 for 6.
The neutral lock is
with no condition.
Clean 6 for 6. So this one got a little bit of a
I can't wait to see Margarita, man. What a woman.
I think. Yeah, I think that. No, we've got a few more changes. We've got Giant Boar. His its ranged ability is now also able to target allies, and it's got a provision change from 7 to 6, which is nice.
It's a huge change.
The Heim Flaminica is now 6 power instead of 5, and we've got Heim and Olaf also getting small buffs. Heim is now only 7 provision, and Olaf got a power buff from 8 to 10.
Interesting.
Take a look at that.
So Olaf getting 8 to 10 is pretty huge, right? Because that doubles itself.
Olaf, there he is. A solid
10
for 10.
If you can get it down to 1, it's huge, right? I like it. And also, Heim was actually seeing a tiny bit of play towards the end of the season this year, so
all good for me.
Yeah, I like it. Right. I think all these changes are really great.
Yeah, let's talk about Northern Realms next.
Oh, here we go, baby!
First of all, we've got a provision bonus change for Pincer Maneuver. Pincer Maneuver now gets 1 extra provision, 16 in total.
Still useless, unfortunately.
Then we've got the Ark Griffin, which got a buff. It's now 6 base power instead of 5.
No provisions.
And also its provision cost is now decreased to 9, so it's easier to fit into your deck and build around.
But we'll take it. We'll definitely take it.
Small change to Griffin Witcher, right? As you can see, it's this one, right?
No, it's the Griffin with no Ranger, yeah.
There he is.
Oh.
There's like notifications popping up and
formation. Nice.
Yeah, the Griffin Ranger now, 2 power formation. I think that's
really good.
The keyword that you added.
In the back row, if your opponent's stacking the back row, obviously would give you an extra point. And also, like.
Yeah, we also made sure that the deploy, now you can target which row is going to be affected, because it used to be locked to the row you were playing it, the opposing one.
Oh, so you can actually do it onto either row.
Would have been too clunky with that effect.
That's cool. So the reason this is actually really cool is obviously you would get an extra point if you go in the back row, but also sometimes you would want a Zeal on this card with Ark Griffin in particular.
Which, got a small buff because we like locks right now. Margarita. Always love myself a Margarita. 6 for 6 as well, with the added bonus that it's like it's an order, so you can play around it with your order archetypes, and obviously has Zeal.
I wish Margarita got a little bit of a change. She used to have
devotion.
Charge.
True.
It's pretty cool.
No devotion needed.
But she's kind of just the worst lock, right? Like she used to be relevant when arbalists and things like that were good, but she's kind of just this. She's basically just Dorogrey, right?
And that now reads crew damage a random enemy unit by 1 instead. So it's not locked to the range throw in that sense, right?
Is that Trebuchet?
Exactly. Okay, I think that's it.
Is that Trebuchet?
Realms right now. I think you also told me that you that sense unit by 1 instead. And that now reads crew damaged. And that now that is very good. And finally, I think we've got a reinforced Trebuchet, which got the added keyword crew.
So if you've got crew, that's a bit of a buff to siege. Kind of cool, I like it.
It's not locked to the.
If you've got a soldier either side of your reinforced Trebuchet, can hit the front as well. Which used to be, if it was inspired, it could hit the front.
For Northern Realms right now. I think you also told me that you guys are aware of the power level of Northern Realms. It's not a weak faction in any sense, like the Witches have found decent success on the ladder. But I think we're going to keep a close eye on that. Maybe you want to talk more about it.
Yeah, basically you said everything. We're keeping them into observation. This is also the reason why there isn't too many changes to Northern Realm on this patch. I guess the last thing I want to mention about them is Ark Griffin. It's still a card that we want to believe in. So we made it more easy to run, both in terms of provision and in terms of tempo when played. And also being down from 10 to 9 means that it's going to be able to be targeted by a card like Amphibian Assault.
Perfect.
I still think Arch Griffin's not very good, if I'm honest, guys.
I think we can continue with Squirtle next, the green faction. Now, for Squirtle, I think when I looked at the patch notes, my biggest takeaway was the change to Novigradian Justice, right? So I think we can cover that first.
Maybe it plays the card first, then the muscle.
Now reads, play a Bronze Dwarf or Crownsplitter from your deck. If you already control a Dwarf or a Crownsplitter, also spawn a Cleaver's Muscle on an allied row. So this basically requires...
Now this is a massive nerf to Syndicate, right?
Of having the Cleaver Muscle spawn first, and then play your...
So if you Furco into this, it'll be okay.
Most often, which now means
I feel like it's a bit too much of a nerf to Syndicate, which really didn't need it.
Yes.
We'll see though.
So Novigradian Justice was being played with Macam Defenders, so this 3 cards package, and we did not like its current state because it was an auto-include, it was a 13-point slam, and it was thinning your deck by 2, which is too much overall. And so this change aims to make it more committal to play in your deck, and hopefully to make it more reserved to...
Still like the change, but the fact that it's obviously a dual faction card,
yeah,
I just worry that it's...
to not be
definitely needed a change, but did it need to be nerfed in Syndicate as well? No, definitely not, right?
Call of Harmony, which got a provision bonus. It's now 16 extra provision.
I don't love that change, if I'm completely honest. I'll be honest with you guys, right?
Like now 7 power instead of 6.
Let me looking over it.
Call of Harmony, which got a provision bonus. It's now 16 extra provisioned. And Dana is now 7 power instead of 6.
Okay, so that's
the Cat Witch has also got a small buff.
Significant.
The Cat Witcher Saboteur is now 4 power instead of 3. The Cat Witcher itself has now Adrenaline 3.
That guy got
which is a nerf.
That is a nerf, right? That is
yes.
a nerf because it now takes it takes longer for it to pro. Makes sense. Then also, as for the other factions, we've got the faction-specific lock, Kjaren. Let's take a look.
Kjaren's a banger card. He has 1 less power, but has the movement.
This is now a 5 for 6. And still has the lock unit and move to the...
I mean, I just wish Margarita was more interesting, man. She used to have...
another dwarf.
She had 3 charges.
A little bit of a love. It's only 6 provision instead of 7.
That's cool.
And
that's cool.
We've got Yorveth, which got a power increase.
This is the trap geezer, right?
Yorveth, let's take a look. 4 power now instead of 3. We've got Yorveth's Gambit, which now only costs 12 provision instead of 13.
Sure.
And then I think we got 2 more. We've got Morin, right? Morin. I mean,
Morin's a lock as well.
Morin also a faction lock.
Nice.
Now 5 for 6 as well. And finally, we've got Venosiel's Commando, which got a provision change from 5 to 4, and that I think rounds out Squirtle.
Cool. Nice, definitely. Probably super unplayable.
Is anything you want to add?
Yeah, small things. We think that the Harmony deck is not that far from being meta, so this change both in terms of provision and power to the leader ability. We hope that it
definitely a big change. 1 power, 1 provision.
Vernicial Commando was one of the portal engines, and we kind of forgot to bring it back to 4 powers with the 8.0. Sorry, here it is.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, I think after we are done with the elves and the dwarves, let's take a look at Nilfgaard. All right.
Yep, lock.
Nilfgaard is up next. So, do you want to kick it off maybe and go through the first couple of changes that we had in mind?
Coup. Masquerade.
Sure.
Masquerade Ball.
I guess the first one is the change to the leader ability Imprisonment,
cool.
Which got a 1 provision buff from 15 to 16.
Sure.
We changed Alba Pikeman. We added Bounded, and it bounded the major random enemy unit by 1 instead.
Cool,
Which
sure.
kind of likes the reinforced Trebuchet. Remove the need the roll lock.
It's actually quite
aspect of
relevant
only
because you
using
can Ramon
one
this
of the
card
roll.
as well, right? So you can get a couple from Ramon.
Hoax, the lock, one of the lock card of NG.
Orcs. Orcs actually
was
getting buffed.
From 5
Yes,
to 7 to
that's
6.
huge. Oh, let's go. Witcher True is so fun to play,
we
but
buffed
Orcs just felt so
Experimental
bad.
Remedy.
He
We
got
changed it from
provision
6
and a point.
special to 5.
Oh!
Small word on this one. Its absence of use proved that it was too expensive for the 6th slot. So we think it's going to fit right in the 5-1.
That's a
and
good
we
card.
hope it's gonna get
I like it,
used
sure. It's just scary and assimilate, innit?
assimilate decks.
But I like it. It's a cool
and
card.
lastly,
Classic.
Viper got its provision changed from 9 to 8.
Yeah. 8 provision
Sure.
now for the big snake.
Not
The big
very
snake.
relevant.
Nice.
Sure.
Love to see it.
I like it, yeah,
Okay,
why
I
not?
think similar to Northern Realms, we are aware of the certain power level that some Nilfgaard decks have achieved right now, and I think there's especially 1 or 2 that are quite popular.
Would really like to see
I mean,
Lockdown just
Nilfgaard is
deleted, if I'm
it's
honest.
always got a
But-
big player base, but we'll definitely keep an eye on it and
I can,
make sure to
yeah,
adjust.
I didn't really think
the
anything would
match if
happen to
anything
it,
gets
but
out of
I
hand.
really hate Lockdown.
Exactly.
I think it's a really bad experience for the
Nice,
newer
nice,
players as
nice.
well.
Alright, so for the
Pretty
final
boring.
faction,
Not
I'd
more
say
experienced players as
we'll
well.
talk about Syndicate next. There it is.
Very excited about this one.
Yeah, there should
alright,
be a lot of changes,
I
right?
think people
That's-
might have
The whole Justice
seen
thing
our
is a bad
background,
start.
at the start of this video, so let's
Mage
talk about
Torture,
it
is it?
first. The Salamander Mage. Where is he? There he is. Oh, why don't I gotta talk to my people here. Make sure that I've got all the premiums here. We got an award. There it is. The Salamander Mage. Finally. It is now a 5/5 Tribute 4. Damaged 3 adjacent enemy units by 2. And whenever you pay a Tribute ability, gain 1 coin. Adrenaline 5, gain 2 coins instead.
So Tribute honestly wasn't that far off being
So
decent
the
when I
big
played
difference
it.
with this one is what used to be an ability that was completely locked behind Adrenaline is now always available, and the Adrenaline actually increases.
This card's pretty good.
And we believe that this is going to be a very strong engine
I
for
agree.
tribute decks.
Card's pretty
And,
sick, honestly.
It might be what the archetype needs.
Tribute, when I played it, didn't feel that bad.
Like to see it. I think there's another Salamander card that got a small change, right? Which is the Lackey, right? There she is. She now reads, the first time you gain a coin each turn, boosts self by 1.
Yes, so this is basically a reward of our previous ability, but now we made sure that it would work with cards such as tax collectors, which wasn't the case previously. And doing so, we think that this is going to be a really interesting and cheap engine for SI.
Yep, cool card.
Why?
Syndicate does love itself some engines, so that's always good. Up next, I would say we take a quick look at our favorite Madame Luisa, and she now has an option to get Zeal.
Ooh.
That's pretty good. Pretty good. So
Ooh,
she can
okay.
decide to spend those 3 coins on the tribute and make sure that
Okay.
the attack goes
Madame
off
Louisa's
if
back,
you're
sure.
feeling, scared that your opponent might
Sure,
have an
I'm
answer.
down. Yeah.
Exactly.
At least you got to spend, right? She's not as bad as she used to be.
Up next,
I'm
what did we
keen.
change for?
She was completely unplayable, right? Nice bounty.
We got another 6 for 6.
Oh, yes.
And
Yes.
He now reads deploy immediately.
Yes.
Enemy unit and deploy ranged purify unit.
Go on,
so
Kurt.
it got a small
Yes, lad.
provision and power change, right? Nice. All right, we've got 4 more cards that were changed.
They used to
for
lock,
Syndicate.
right?
I think we can just go through them. It's Collusion, which got a provision change from 11 to 10.
Oh,
We've got
baby.
Failed Experiment, which its power is now 10 instead of 9.
Oh, baby.
We've got Fallen Railer, which the adrenaline got changed from 3 to 5. That's a big difference.
Oh, yes.
And finally, we've got adrenaline changed for Salamander Abomination as well, from 4 to 6, so it procs 2 turns earlier as well.
Yes.
It's kind of good, but it's also kind of bad.
Sorry.
With the location, but it is good.
Okay. So yeah, an overall buff to
definitely needed it, right?
Expansion.
The odd Syndicate,
And
the
New
Fallen
York
Raider
will
change.
way
Ooh,
better,
baby,
of course.
might be where I start on day one. Honestly,
I think
Syndicate
players
with
will be happy to
and
test them
Tribute
out
Action, because
and
Madame Luisa fits into that deck too,
feel
right? And
that
she got some
powerful
love with Savola.
Syndicate.
Yeah,
That was a lot of changes.
I think that's where I start.
Coming up tomorrow.
Definitely the
yeah, is there
bombs.
anything left you want
Mad.
to say, especially
I think they're going to be
about
really
these
flipping good.
changes that you're looking
I'm going to
for?
throw it out there. Madagascar.
I'm a bit lost.
I did
no,
really
yeah,
well
no,
with it this season, and I didn't
I'm
have those 4
very-
provision bombs.
I'm looking forward to see how the community is gonna react to it, and how the meta will change.
Madoc
Responding to
is
this.
ridiculously
cool
good
to
now.
see,
Ridiculously good.
You,
Wow.
as a team, finding a middle ground between
Wow.
basically destroying
V?
a card and removing it out of the possibility to being played, and still
Yeah,
toning down its power level.
it's good
so
they haven't
it doesn't
destroyed it. However, I don't like the approach of changing
something
Overwhelming
that you
Hunger
hate to see on ladder. So I think that's a very difficult path, but I
and
feel
still
like
having
this
V being decent, because
might
V is just
be
super
tricky,
boring.
hopefully.
Like, if there's ever a card I wouldn't
Other
mind
than
being
that, we've
destroyed,
got
it's V,
a
because it's so
few
boring.
fixes coming up tomorrow as
It's
well.
just dead
A little bit
gameplay.
more,
It,
I'm gonna
like, the
mention
matchups just come down to
specifically.
how many
We've
V tutors you draw.
The change that players can now click the order ability of Dol du Locke, the monster artifact, even when there are no units left in the deck, which is nice. We've got playing Siana's order into Mata will now correctly let you draw 2 cards. That is how it's supposed to work. And now units that have Vitality or Bleeding and Veil at the same time will no longer be able to receive additional Vitality or Bleeding. I think that was something where people weren't exactly sure if this was intentionally or not, because it kind of just changes the timer or the counter on your Vitality or Bleeding. But yeah, we felt like this is how it should be. You should not be able to add anything to the card after Veil has been applied. Yeah, and I think that's it. There's one extra topic I've got for everyone, a small reminder that the Lunar board is leaving the shop tomorrow, so do grab it while you can. We've also got new cosmetics obviously coming up tomorrow. We've got the Year of the Ox this year round.
That's
for
very sick, isn't it?
the Lunar New Year. And
Jeez.
that's why we've got this beautiful new card back, and there's also the option to get a new coin in the Lucky Bundle. Other than that, we'll be adding a really nice mega pack, which consists of, I think, 25 ultimate premium ultimate cacks. We've got Snowdrop in there, we've got an Ox avatar, looks really cute, and a nice border, yeah, and some Metroid powder on top. That is grand. And I think that now actually concludes this video. We've got a lot coming up tomorrow. Obviously, we've got a new journey. Who could it be? I don't know. Is it Roach? Is it
me?
Is it Jean? Maybe it's Jean. Are you in the game tomorrow? Maybe. We'll have to see. Also, there is a special event coming up. With that, I mean Valentine's Day. We all love Valentine's Day, so
No, we don't.
keep an eye out for whatever that brings to the game.
I don't want
And
to talk about
other
it.
than that, first of all, thank you so much for joining me today, Jean, and I hope to see you here on this stage soon again.
Thanks,
Thank you very
Jean.
much for inviting me, Ryan.
Seems like a bit of a
Always a pleasure.
geezer. Ryan
Pleasure
sounds
is
as
all
well,
mine.
isn't it?
And yeah, that's it. Thank you all so much for watching out there, and we hope that you will enjoy the upcoming updates and the upcoming patch. And yeah, we'll see you on the battlefield. Until then.
See you, everyone.
Cool. Alright, let's flick through the changes we saw then, innit? Let's okay, so recapping. First of all the locks getting changed. Agora, she's got down a provision, very cool. But also the neutral lock, Dora Grey at 6 provisions, 6 power. Really cool. I'm actually a big fan. My only concern is obviously if Nilfgaard then just starts adding these cards in, but I don't think they really will. Certainly some decks could go down that route and just having like a ridiculous amount of locks. But honestly, I think having some locks be a little bit more relevant in more factions is pretty healthy. Obviously, Nilfgaard overdoes it a little bit with locks at times, but I think bringing these other locks down into playability range is really good. Big fan of that change. However, these bombs, Dancing Star, sure, absolutely down with it being 4 provisions. I also don't hate that the Dimitrium bomb has been given a bit of a buff. However, I'm a little bit scared that these Madoc decks are just going to be incredibly good this next season, because if you've got a 4 provision neutral card, it inherently, if you look at Pact, for example, like that card is really good and it is played in a lot of decks. So it opens up portal possibilities. But also when you've got a card like a bomb that has synergy with a Madoc that basically adds 3 points onto it each time potentially, you really need to be careful, in my opinion, with what you do, because at the moment these Madoc decks have been really good with just 5 provision bombs, and a 5 provision card is inherently a lot worse than a 4 provision card. So now you've got this 4 damage neutral card that also pulls a 3-point card from your deck that can do 3 more damage. I think that Madoc decks next season are going to be straight up tier 1. Is my early prediction, because the fact that you could just go Dancing Star, Red Haze, and Dimitrium Bomb, you don't even need to worry about these 5 provision bombs. I think that's a really, really daunting thing, because what that's going to mean is you can polarize the rest of your deck. So rather than running 4 5s, you can now run 4 4s, and that means that you could upgrade one of your like 4 provision cards to an 8 provision card, or one of your 6 provision cards to a 10 provision card. So I do like that they're pushing these bombs, and they've put Dancing Star in particular. Red Haze as well is a really high ceiling card now. I do just worry they might have overdone it a little bit. However, definitely keen. I think Dancing Star in particular being 4 provisions is a really nice change. I also think Dimitrium Bomb being a little bit better is also really cool. So I'm keen for it. I think it's a nice idea. The bombs they've changed were pretty useless. I have played a lot of Red Haze. I did try Dancing Star, and I did even try some Dimitrium Bombs. But you can be sure I'm going to be trying some double Madoc Nilfgaard now that there's more 4 provision cards. It is going to make deck building a lot cleaner on those sorts of decks. So I'm a big fan of it. However, my early prediction is that Madoc is going to be tier 1 this upcoming season. Vedemaka also getting changed. I still don't think this card is particularly good, but definitely needed a little bit of love somewhere down. Xavier getting this change I think is really cool as well. Just bring in these neutral cards that are sort of this 7 or 8 provisions down to sort of the 6 provision range, where they're much more you can include them as a tech option if you really want to in certain metas. It's very, very difficult to fit in cards that are like 7, 8 provisions. It's still not that easy to fit in 6 provision cards, but it's much more realistic. Also, we got a change of Maxi now becoming the only unit that's a gold card at 5 provisions, and I think that's a banger change. Maxi is a card that lets you look at your deck, and then you can decide to shuffle it and put 1 card at the bottom. Card's really cool, really good with portal decks. It's a really nice tutor card. It's sort of like anti-clog as well. I think that's a really nice change on Maxi, and having a 5 provision card that's a unit with her ability, I think is a banger. I think she'll see play. I really do. So I really like this change they've gone with the neutral cards. V, however, is the change I like the least. I'm going to be interested to hear on what other people think. It's obviously very relevant that it has lost 1 power, because let's say you play 9 Vs, that's 9 points. It's actually more than that, right? Because it's a lot of points. It is a lot of points. However, this card is so boring. I would much rather it just got reworked rather than reworking the leader, because if you go back a few seasons ago, Overwhelming Hunger was one of the most wholesome competitive monsters decks, right? Whereas now the competitive monster decks are V and Keltalis. Now the V deck hasn't performed as well as people would expect. Still super competitive. I played it from one of my decks this season. But the reason its win rate is not that high is because people have been teching in spores into all of their decks. Let's move on, because I think overall I'm really happy with all the changes. The V change and maybe Madoc being too strong are probably my biggest concerns. I love all the locks, and I love that they're making all these changes, being brave. I respect it. Cool. I'm just going to be honest. I'm not going to lie and say, oh yeah, this is great. If I don't agree, I'm going to explain why, you know. Ekimara change, it is really cool though. I will add that, because this Katakan basically getting a huge buff, right? Because the Death Wish is now an extra point. It comes in at the same amount of tempo, but it's now got Thrive. This card is honestly not that far off being pretty good. It's also a buff to Blood Scent decks as well, because you get like extra points off the Ekimara, right? Off the Blood Scent leader ability as well. So yeah, I'm keen for this change to the Ekimara, so it's definitely an advantage. Fuka, I think, yeah, this seems like a nice change. I'm still not sure how good this is, but basically it's a Thrive 2 card. It's a card you would play later on in the round. It's certainly better than the previous ability. I wonder if they could have tried to keep the previous ability, but add some armor and lower its base power maybe, or maybe make it 4 provisions. But yeah, I think this is a really nice change, to be honest. And I like that they're changing some cards from the most recent expansion that were below the power curve, which this IDR card is definitely one of them. I did try to use this card quite a bit and struggled to fit it in. I still don't think it's that good, but certainly a step in the right direction. And yeah, Lippy as well, honestly, was kind of, when I said what change I thought it should get, when I was talking to other people, the thing with Lippy is you can't really nerf the other cards in it. So Roach and Knickers got buffed recently, and that's great because they're playable in much more decks. You definitely don't want to kill Lippy completely because it does open up a whole deck and archetype. However, just nerfing 1.1 provision to Lippy, I don't think is going to be enough to stop that deck being really, really strong. Certainly, it is obviously a massive nerf, but you know, Lippy's still a huge tempo play because you have Roach, Knickers, Morkvarg. So one less tempo on this huge tempo play isn't super, super relevant. It is definitely a big deal. However, personally, I think 2 power and 12 provisions, while heavy-handed, the deck's still going to be very, very viable in my opinion, because you don't want to nerf the other cards in it. So even though that would be a heavy-handed nerf, I think it would be reasonable. Step in the right direction though. We'll see how it goes. The Kadooch, love this change. I think it's a banger change. It's not nerfed in, for example, they mentioned how it's got more synergy with the Bear Witch Mentor, which is really cool. Also in the Mushroom deck where you've got heal value, it kind of doesn't really change too much there. Definitely needed changing, and I think this is just the perfect approach to it. It's still a really good card that will see a lot of play. We also got a change to Dana with Nature's Gift, not Nature's Gift, with the Call of Harmony, whatever it's called, which is the one that spawns the Harmony Dana. She got a point buff, and the provision also got buffed. I think that's really cool. Obviously, we've mentioned the locks as well. I would love to see Margarita get a slightly more interesting ability. She used to have, as I mentioned, charge. If she had 3 charges, she could lock. I'd be keen for that to return. She just comes in with 3 charge, Zeal, I think, why not? This Griffin Witcher Ranger getting changed is really cool. Getting formation also means you can get Zeal with this card. And also the Ark Griffin change, definitely a step in the right direction. Not really sure I believe in that card particularly. Also, Pincer Maneuver got a provision change. Not really sure I'm a believer in that deck at all, but it remains to be seen. Certainly a lot less of investment at 9 provisions compared to 10. And the fact that you can shoot it with Assault is also really cool. Yeah, Margarita, as we mentioned, definitely could get a little bit of change. The Justice change is probably the other one I like the least when combined with V and when combined with Bombs. In fact, I would probably say this is my least favourite change. Now, I think this is a great change for the Squirtle faction, because what this means is you can't just go Justice into Volunteers into Thinning. It also means you can't go Justice as your first play. So you can't just go Justice into Pyrotech because you wouldn't get the Cleaver's Muscle. So you would need to have a Dwarf down first. So this is a huge nerf, honestly, to this card. And it was a very, very popular card in both factions, to be fair. Personally, I think it's a little bit heavy-handed. The card is obviously still really good in an all-in Dwarf deck, and if you're playing more Dwarves. However, it's a lot worse with Pyrotechs, which I don't think it necessarily needed to be. It's a lot worse with cards like Skirmishers, which it didn't need to be. Of course, the targeted card is the Volunteers. So I feel like there was a less heavy-handed approach to this change. Moreover, I'm not really completely against it in Squirtle because the card was really good and way too auto-include. However, it's a huge nerf to crime decks in Syndicate, and that is the absolute last thing these decks needed. It's a huge nerf to Swarm decks in Syndicate as well, and it's the last thing those decks needed. And of course, there's not many dual faction cards, but this being one of them, I do feel like this change is far too heavy-handed. The trap cards getting changed, cool, love it. Getting a little bit of love. This Commando getting a little bit of love. The keywords on the Pikeman and the Trebuchet, I think, are also a really nice change. The Viper is definitely sure why not pretty irrelevant, and I think the most interesting changes of this patch are in the tribute archetype of Syndicate, because now Madame Luisa is much more playable. This Salamander Mage is really cool. The Lackey looks pretty good. Fallen Railer getting some love. Also, the Abomination is not that far off, as well as this Failed Experiment as well. Yeah, really cool changes. I definitely can see myself playing some Syndicate on day 1 of the patch with some tribute shenanigans. So yeah, overall, big fan of the changes. Like that they're being brave. I like that they're changing a lot of the neutral cards that I'm seeing play, like Xavier, Maxi, and the locks. I think the V change personally isn't enough, but we'll have to wait and see what other people think. Obviously, I've explained I don't really agree with changing the leader. I think if they're going to want to change something else, it should be Haunt and not the leader ability. But maybe that's just me. We'll have to see what other people think. I guess on the flip side, like the Ekimara is a little bit better because that can open up some cool design space. I think the bomb changes, making like Dancing Star and whatever that other card's called, 4 provisions is cool. I think the Dimitrium bomb looks strong as well. So all in combination, I think that Maddox looks super flipping scary for next season. So I'm a little bit worried about that, but we'll have to wait and see. And yeah, I think overall, all changes. I like that we've got a lot of them. I wish definitely the Justice change was a little bit less heavy-handed. I wish the V change was a little bit more heavy-handed. And yeah, that's my main feedback. But yeah, what do you guys think? Let me know. Really looking forward to playing on the patch tomorrow. Going to bring you lots of decks. I did finish top 64. As I stand, I'm sat in 46th position with a day left. So I'm going to see how high I can climb. Really chuffed, and looking forward to playing the qualifiers next season for a chance to play a Gwent Open. Imagine the scenes, guys. So yeah. Alright guys, just because I missed a few cards, let's just quickly skim through all the balance changes which Emotion Engine has put together all in one place for us. So I did definitely miss a few cards as we went through. Regis has been made 3 power. Didn't know that. Scorch, 11 provisions. There's some nice changes. Yennefer, getting down to 10 provisions is a nice buff to Swarm. And Yennefer the Conjurer now being 9 provisions with a Zeal is also a really nice change. I love this card. It's a bit of a classic. And it's not that far off being pretty good in like a Mage Northern Realms archetype with charges and things like that. And now that gets Zeal, that is a massive, massive buff to this card because it's also got a much higher ceiling now and a much, much lower or much higher floor. So huge, huge buff to this card, and I'm a big, big fan. Also getting the provision as well. Now, the Overwhelming Hunger, when I initially reacted to it, obviously I wasn't that happy, but maybe having talked to a few other people, this is just actually fine, and maybe this is enough points to just kill this card. Not completely, so maybe, you know, maybe they've done a good job, and I'm just a V hater, I guess. So we'll give them benefit of the doubt for sure, and we'll wait and see on this one. Bridge Troll 4 provisions, that's really cool, and Rot Fiend 5 power, so definitely some support to these bronze Deathwish cards. Harpy, the token that spawns from the Harpy Egg, is now 6 power. That's also really cool because you can play this card with Idrin potentially, because Harpy, if you have 2 of them, spawn a Harpy Egg, so it's a buff to that card as well. And you could then get 2 Harpy Eggs of Idrin that are 1 power, and they'd spawn 6 power cards, so kind of cool. Catacon, 5 power. Obviously it's spawning the Ekimara now, and it's still got Thrive, so nice buff to this card. Fuka getting the double Thrive as well. Wild Hunt Hound at 4 provisions is a banger. I think the Lippy change isn't enough, personally. I think they could have gone 2 power, 12 provisions. The deck's still going to be really, really good. And the Kadooch change, I think, is a nice one. I think the fact that they've changed Hunter to Range Row is cool. And the Giant Boar getting a little bit of love as well as these other cards is really cool. Certainly looking forward to trying out Heim and Olaf as well. Never really played Flamenca personally, so we'll have to wait and see on that one if it's any good. Into Northern Realms, all these changes super reasonable. I would love to see Margarita be made a little bit more interesting and maybe have some more Mage synergy, or maybe have a little bit more Charge synergy like she used to. I think that could be really, really cool. I think at the moment she's a little bit vanilla, a little bit boring. There's actually a lot of reasons sometimes to use Dora Grey over her. Yeah, she's basically just Dora Grey, right? So yeah, up and into the okay, up next, Square Tail. The Justice one I still think is a little bit too heavy-handed personally, and it's basically a big, they've not actually mentioned it, but it is a big nerf to Syndicate, right? It's not just a Square Tail card. At least the patch notes haven't mentioned it, so that's my gripe with that one. The leader change is really nice. The Saboteur getting a little bit of love is cool, and the Cat Witch getting a bit of a nerf is also pretty cool. Barkley Elves is now 6 provisions, I believe. This card definitely needed a little bit of love. It's basically not that far off being pretty good, and honestly, like All in Dwarfs is a pretty cool archetype that's not that far off. Trap's getting a little bit of love, and the Commando being changed to 4 provisions are also great changes. Imprisonment getting a bit of love is great. I love this Pikeman change. I love the Orcs is now 6 power, 6 provisions. Huge buff to the Witcher trio, which is a thing I really enjoy playing. But Orcs just felt so bad all the time. So that extra power and that extra provision he has, really nice, big buff to that, and I really am happy with that. So even though obviously more Yep locks for Nilfgaard, it's definitely a little bit scary. Just an all-in lock deck could definitely be a deck you could see. Now I think this change is scary, honestly. Like, this card is really good, and Assimilate was already really good. You could now probably justify including 2 of these. So a little bit scared about that change, if I'm honest. The Syndicate changes I think are really cool. We didn't really touch on Madame Luisa being changed. She is going to be really good, I think, in these all-in tribute decks. And Kurt, now being a bounty card, is also really sick. Big fan of that. And he's still got the Purified Collusion at 10 provisions. Beautiful. I love a bit of collusion. And these other changes are also pretty cool too. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed this little breakdown. We'll be obviously diving into the patch full on tomorrow. Definitely going to be trying out some Syndicate. Definitely going to also give some Ark Griffin a bit of a try, as well as testing some bombs. I think that's where we're going to be heading tomorrow. So thanks guys for watching, I appreciate it, and see you tomorrow for patch day with lots of decks and stuff like that. Much love. Take care. Bye.